Girl of Ancient Civilization. Book 1 of the Ëlanari Tales. Brought to you by Ashenheart. Chapter 1. Ashwood. The forest had been trying to swallow the road for years, and it was winning. Roots buckled the old stone slabs. Moss filled the cracks. The canopy overhead had knitted itself so thick that the late afternoon light came through in coins. Kael walked through the coins and didn't pick any up. He moved loose, quiet, one hand resting on the hilt of his sword without gripping it. 28, tall, lean, dark hair tied back with a fraying leather cord, a nose broken once and set well. Behind him, 10 paces back, walked the girl. 4 days on the road and he still didn't know what to make of her. Commander Drell had given him the mission with that flat, unblinking stare, and Kael hadn't asked. Escort the child from the eastern safe house to the designated waypoint. 7 days, stay off main roads, trust no one. He'd done escort work before. Merchants, diplomats, once a painter who wept every time it rained. Keep them alive, collect your mark in the iron ledger. Watch your name climb a line on the roster. This one was different. 10 years old, thin-wristed, eyes that didn't startle.
We should stop soon,
Kael said over his shoulder.
Wayhouse 2 miles ahead. I can see the smoke.
No answer. He turned. Lira was crouched at the edge of the road, studying a beetle climbing a stone.
Lira.
She looked up, redirected.
I heard you.
She said.
2 miles, smoke.
And
I was watching the beetle.
He turned away and kept walking. The wayhouse sat at a bend where the forest thinned and a stream cut through the undergrowth. Stone building, thatched roof, a stable for 2 horses, a chimney coughing smoke. Inside, warmth, the smell of stew, 5 people who looked up when the door opened. 2 traders in the corner, tired. A woman alone at a table near the fire. 2 men at the bar who sat a little too straight and drank a little too slowly. An old man behind the counter watched them come in but didn't stop wiping his glass. Kael steered Lira to a table near the back wall.
sit. Don't talk to anyone.
I never talk to anyone.
Lira said.
You talk enough for both of us.
He flagged the old man and ordered stew, bread, water. While they waited, he drew a small stick of charcoal from his belt pouch and, beneath the table where no one could see, traced a quick symbol on the inside of his left forearm. 3 lines, a curve, a closing mark. The inscription set with a faint warmth. Ward's skin. Good for 1 hit. Maybe 2 if the hit was glancing. The stew came. Decent. Rabbit. Root vegetables. Something herbal he couldn't name. Lira ate, every bite considered.
When did you last eat?
He asked.
This morning, you gave me the dried apple.
Before that.
She thought about it.
I don't remember. Before the safe house, time was different.
He let it go. Push, and she went still. The woman by the fire got up and walked to the counter. Kael didn't look. Then he did. Tall, dark red hair past the shoulders, firelight on her collarbone where her shirt hung open at the throat. She paid for her meal and on the way out stopped at their table.
Traveling with your daughter?
Her smile was warm.
Sister.
Kael said.
Long road?
Getting shorter.
She held his gaze. A beat passed.
Well,
She said.
if the road gets too long, I'm in the room above the stable.
Safe travels.
His voice was pleasant. He didn't smile. She studied him for half a moment and left. Lira watched the door close. Her eyes came back.
She liked you.
Kael picked up his spoon.
People like lots of things.
That's not an answer.
He ate. Lira returned to her stew. After a moment, quietly,
Is it because of her?
his hand stopped. The spoon hovered. He set it down.
Eat your food.
You talk in your sleep sometimes. Just a name.
Eat your food, Lira.
She did. After the meal, Kael stepped outside. The sun was dropping. The stream caught the last light in broken pieces. He walked the perimeter, checked the stable, turned toward the tree line. Something prickled at the back of his neck. A shift. He stopped. Then he looked down. Boot prints in the soft earth at the forest's edge, maybe 30 yards from the way house. 3 sets, heavy treads evenly spaced, disciplined stride. Fresh, hours old at most. He crouched and touched the edge of a print. The soil was still damp. 3 people had stood here, watching the way house. Then they'd moved parallel to it, east along the road, the direction Kael and Lira were headed. He reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a smooth, flat stone the size of his thumb. An inscription was already carved into it, tight, precise lines he'd prepared 2 nights ago by campfire. Flare mark, 1 burst of blinding white light, enough to buy 3 seconds in a fight. 4 of these left. He put it back and pulled out the charcoal instead, knelt and drew a trace step on the ground beside the boot prints. A detection rune, simple, temporary. Anyone through this spot in the next few hours, he'd feel it, a pressure behind his eyes. Then he went back inside. Lira was where he'd left her, hands folded on the table, stew finished.
We're not staying the night.
She said.
No.
How many?
3 that I can see. Could be more.
She nodded, slid off the bench and pulled her dark cloak, too large for her by half, around her thin shoulders. For just a moment he thought he saw it, a pale blue-white glow beneath the fabric of her sleeve, there and gone. The inscriptions, responding to something. He looked away, she didn't. They left through the back. The road east was dark. The forest had closed over it, the canopy so dense the first stars couldn't reach the ground. Kael moved fast. Lira matched his pace. Kael's hand rested on his sword. The leather cord on the hilt was warm from his palm. The ward on his forearm was humming. 4 days into the mission. 3 days left. Chapter 2. The First Blood. They walked for 2 hours in the dark before Kael let them stop. He chose a hollow between 2 fallen oaks where the ground dipped and the canopy overhead was thick enough to hide a campfire. He laid his sword across his knees and sat with his back against bark, watching the road they'd left behind. Lira curled into her cloak without being told.
Sleep.
He said.
Are you going to?
Someone has to watch.
You watched last night too.
I'm good at it.
She studied him in the dark.
You'll be slow tomorrow if you don't sleep.
I'll be dead tomorrow if I do. Sleep, Lira.
She closed her eyes. Within minutes her breathing changed, deep even. Kael sat in the dark. The pressure came at dawn. A feeling behind his eyes, dull and insistent. The trace step he'd laid at the way house, triggering. He was on his feet before the feeling faded. Lira woke the instant he moved, open eyes, a hand already reaching for her pack.
They found the way house.
He said.
How far behind?
2 hours. Maybe less if they're fast.
They'll be fast.
She wasn't guessing. They moved. The forest changed as morning broke. The old stone road gave way to a dirt track winding through birch and ash. Light coming through in long white shafts. Kael measured the gap as he walked. 2 hours behind, 3 trained fighters, a man slowed by a child. Not long enough. He stopped at a stream crossing where the water ran shallow over flat stones, knelt and refilled their water skins, pulled the charcoal from his pouch and drew an edge binding along the fuller of his sword. A sharpening rune, 3 quick strokes, a connecting arc, a seal. The rune sank into the steel. The blade hummed once and went still. Sharper now, for a while.
Can you teach me that?
Lira asked. She was watching his hands.
No.
Why?
Because it takes years to learn and we have minutes.
I learn fast.
He looked up. She stood at the edge of the stream, morning light behind her.
I know you do.
He said.
That's what worries me.
The ambush came mid-morning. They were in a stretch of forest where the track narrowed between two ridges, natural walls of earth and root, shoulder high on either side. A funnel. Kael recognized it half a second too late. The first attacker dropped from the ridge to his left, fast, armored in boiled leather, no insignia, short sword already swinging. Kael caught the blade on his own and felt the edge binding bite, the attacker's sword notched where it met his. He shoved the man back, reversed his grip, and opened his throat in one motion. Blood on birch leaves. The man fell. The second and third came from the right, together, coordinated, one high and one low. Kael sidestepped the low cut, a sweep at his legs that should have caught him, but his body moved a fraction before his eyes registered the blade, and took the high attacker's wrist off at the joint. The hand hit the ground, still gripping its weapon. The man screamed. Kael silenced him with a thrust through the chest and turned to face the low fighter, who had rolled back to his feet and was circling. This one was better. Taller, patient. He feinted left, committed right. Kael read it, but barely. The blade caught his ribs, slicing through shirt and into skin, deep enough. Pain, bright. Kael stepped inside the man's reach, too close for swords, and drove his elbow into the fighter's jaw. Bone cracked. The man staggered. Kael's sword found his neck. 3 down in less than a minute. His ribs were bleeding. His breathing was wrong. Then the fourth came out of the trees. The fifth. The sixth.
Lira. Run.
She didn't argue. She turned and bolted down the track, cloak flying behind her, fast for her size. Kael put himself between her and the 3 new fighters and tried to calculate odds he already knew. 3 against 1, fresh against wounded, in a funnel with no room to maneuver. The ward's skin on his forearm was still humming. 1 hit. The first of the 3 was a woman, short, compact, twin daggers in a reverse grip with the blades running along her forearms. She came in fast and low. The second was a big man with a mace hanging back, waiting for an opening. The third held position on the ridge, a crossbow trained on Kael's chest. The woman attacked. Quicker than the first 3. Quicker than anyone Kael had fought in months. Her daggers wove a pattern he recognized, Southmark style. He parried the first strike, deflected the second, and the third found his shoulder. The blade punched through leather and muscle, and Kael's vision went white for a heartbeat. The ward's skin activated. It cracked across his forearm. A pulse of force that knocked the woman back 3 steps. She hit the ridge wall, recovered, and came again. The ward had bought him a breath. He reached into his belt pouch, found a flare stone, and threw it at the ground between the woman and the man with the mace. Light, blinding, inscribed. The woman screamed and covered her eyes. The mace man stumbled. The crossbow bolt fired blind and buried itself in a tree 2 feet from Kael's head. He didn't waste it. He grabbed Lira's pack. She dropped it when she ran, and sprinted. The track opened into forest. He could see Lira ahead, a dark shape moving through white birch trunks. He caught up in 20 strides, scooped her pack with his free hand, and kept running. Blood ran down his ribs and dripped from his shoulder, leaving a trail he couldn't afford but couldn't stop. Behind them, voices, angry, pained but organized, delayed.
How bad?
Lira asked without slowing.
I'll live.
That's not what I asked.
It's what you're getting.
They ran. Kael led them off the track and into undergrowth, where the ground was soft with rot and their footprints would be harder to follow. Downhill toward water, stream noise to cover sound, wet earth to hold fewer prints. After 20 minutes he stopped, leaned against a tree, pressed his hand to his ribs and felt blood, warm and steady, soaking through his shirt. Lira stood beside him, breathing hard but controlled. She looked at his hand, at the blood between his fingers.
Sit down,
She said.
I'm fine.
You're bleeding from 2 places and your face is the color of birch bark. Sit down.
He sat. His legs made the decision for him. She knelt beside him and pulled his shirt open at the ribs. The cut was 4 inches long, shallow on the left, deeper on the right where the blade had dug in. She examined it carefully.
The shoulder is worse.
Kael said.
I know. I'm starting with the one that won't kill you.
She tore a strip from the hem of her cloak and pressed it against his ribs.
Hold this.
He held it. She moved to his shoulder. The dagger had gone in clean. A puncture, not a slash. She packed it with cloth and bound it tight.
Where did you learn this?
He asked.
The safe house. People came in hurt. I watched.
You watched.
I always watch.
He almost smiled. Something shifted in her face.
They'll track us.
Kael said.
The blood.
I know.
There were 6. I killed 3. The other 3 are alive and angry.
I know.
And the one with the crossbow is going to be a problem.
Yes.
He looked at her. Not a tremor.
You've done this before.
He said. She didn't answer. She tied off the bandage on his shoulder and sat back on her heels.
Can you walk?
She asked.
Yes.
Then we should walk.
He stood. The world tilted once and then leveled. Ribs, shoulder, a dozen smaller cuts he hadn't noticed. Behind them, 3 survivors picking up their trail. Ahead, somewhere, a place to make a stand. He adjusted his sword. The edge binding had burned out. The rune along the blade was ash gray now, spent, just steel again. He'd need to redraw it, but not here.
Kael.
Lira said. He turned.
The one who came at you first. The one who dropped from the ridge.
She paused.
He called your name before he swung. Did you hear it?
He had. In the chaos of the first strike, buried under adrenaline and instinct, a voice had said Kael. Recognized, not guessed.
I heard it.
He said.
They know who you are.
Yes.
This was planned.
Yes.
She pulled her cloak tighter. The morning light was climbing, burning off the mist.
Then we need somewhere they can't follow.
She said. Kael thought of the ruins. He'd seen them on the map. The old fort, half a mile south, destroyed in the war. Stone walls, defensible ground, a place most people avoided. He'd fought there once, a lifetime ago.
I know a place.
He said. They walked south. The blood trail followed. Chapter 3. The Pursuit. They moved fast and badly. Kael's ribs grated with every stride. His shoulder was worse. The puncture had stiffened overnight, his left arm dead at his side. Blood had dried down his shirt in a dark crust, cracking as he moved. The old stone road was behind them now, abandoned at the ambush site. They were cutting south through raw woodland, birch and ash, undergrowth thick enough to grab at ankles, roots that surfaced and dove through the leaf rot. Lira moved behind him, silent, keeping pace with a grim, practiced efficiency. When the undergrowth thickened, she found her own way through. Lower, lighter, a shadow slipping through gaps that his body couldn't fit.
How much further?
She asked. The first words either of them had spoken in an hour.
Half a mile? Maybe less.
You said that before.
I was wrong before.
Wind in the canopy, the distant sound of water below the hill. Morning light came through the trees in long, pale shafts. A sense he'd never named that read the wrongness in air and stillness. 3 somethings, behind them and to the left, maybe 200 yards back, moving parallel, careful, patient. He'd been tracking them since dawn. He called it instinct. He didn't call it magic. The stream crossing was where they caught him. He'd been aiming for it, a shallow stretch where the water ran over flat stones wide enough to mask their trail. They came down the hill through a stand of young birch, the trees thin and white, and the stream cut through the green below. Kael went first. The water was cold enough to make his wounds clench and his breath hitch. He was halfway across when the air behind him changed. He turned before the thought finished forming. His sword was out and rising before his eyes found the shape in the birch. A man, fast, coming downhill at a run, short sword extended, face set in blank concentration. The strike came low, aimed at his legs. Kael sidestepped, faster than the wound should have allowed. The blade passed through the space where his thigh had been a half-second earlier. He countered. His sword caught the man's extended arm at the wrist. Not a clean cut. The angle was wrong and his shoulder screamed in protest. But enough. Steel bit flesh. The man's grip loosened. His short sword splashed into the stream. The man staggered. He was one of the 3 survivors from the ambush. Kael recognized him by the unmarked armor in his stride, taller than the others, broad nose. He reached for a dagger at his belt with his wounded hand. Quick, professional even when bleeding. Kael didn't give him the chance. He drove forward, shoulder down, and shoved the man off balance. The stones were slick. The man's feet went. He hit the stream on his back, water exploding around him, and Kael's sword found his side. Shallow. Painful enough. The man curled and rolled, scrabbling upstream, one hand on his ribs and the other reaching for the bank. Kael let him go. There was no time to finish. The other 2 were close. He could feel them in the tree line, waiting to see how the first probe went before committing.
Lira. Cross. Now.
She was already moving. She came through the stream in 4 quick steps, water to her shins, her dark eyes fixed on the wounded man crawling up the far bank. She didn't look away from him. They climbed the opposite bank and plunged into the forest on the other side. Behind them, the wounded man pulled himself onto dry ground and stayed there, breathing hard, bleeding into the moss. The other 2 didn't follow. Not yet. They ran for 10 minutes before Kael's body called a vote and his legs lost. He made it to a fallen oak, massive, toppled by some old storm, its root ball torn from the earth. He braced himself against it, breathing in long, ragged pulls, his hand pressed to his ribs. Fresh blood. The wound had opened again. Lira appeared beside him, breathing hard but controlled.
"You're bleeding again."
She said.
I'm always bleeding. It's becoming a personality trait.
She didn't smile. She looked at his ribs, at the dark spread of fresh blood, and then at his face. In the dappled forest light, he caught it, a faint pulse of blue-white beneath the fabric of her sleeve. Lira followed his gaze. She pulled her sleeve down and tucked her hand inside her cloak.
"We need to keep moving."
She said.
I know.
"Can you?"
He straightened. Pain informed him in detail that this was a mistake. He did it anyway.
The ruins are close. I can see.
He stopped, looked south through the trees. There. Gray stone, darker than the trees, visible in fragments through the canopy. A wall half collapsed, a tower broken at the top. Fort Halloran. His feet adjusted their angle, aiming for the east approach, the one with cover, in through the old officers' quarters where the walls were still high enough to hide behind. His hand reached for the memory of a handhold on a specific corner. His breathing settled into a rhythm he'd used before. He'd been 25, 3 years ago. The Valdric Compact had held Fort Halloran for 6 months. The Sarathi Dominion had broken it in a single night. Kael had survived by being lucky and willing to leave men behind.
"Is that it?"
Lira asked.
That's it.
"It's broken."
Everything useful is.
She looked at him. He started walking, his body lead. The ruins rose around them, stone walls emerging from the forest. Ivy crawled over everything. Trees had grown through gaps in the masonry. The main gate was a gap, wood rotted, iron hinges rusted. Thick walls, narrow corridors, good sight lines, limited approaches, stone that didn't burn. It was defensible. That was close enough. They went in. The air inside the ruins was cool and still. Dust motes turned in the light that came through cracks in the ceiling. The floor was stone, buckled in places by roots, scattered with debris, fallen masonry, old timber, the occasional glint of something metal half buried in dirt. Kael walked the main hall and felt 3 years collapse. The corridor where Sergeant Byrne had died. The wall where someone had scratched a rune that didn't work and paid for it with their hand. The well, still there, a dark mouth in the floor. His body remembered the turns, the places where the ceiling was low.
You know this place.
Lira said.
I fought here. During the war.
On which side?
The one that lost.
She accepted this without comment. She was looking at the walls, at the old inscription marks still visible on some of the stones. Military runes, faded, spent, some of them scarred with the black marks of detonation. Kael moved through the fort. He checked the two entrances, the broad corridor from the gate, and the narrow east passage through the officers' quarters. Tested walls, kicked rubble, calculated beam weight. Then he got to work. Trace step at the main corridor entrance, 3 strokes, wide. Trace step at the east passage, rubble piled at the east passage to slow anyone coming through. Loose stones near the main corridor, ammunition. The weak south wall, he found it by memory. A stretch about 8 feet wide where mortar had crumbled, cracks ran deep, and ivy was doing more structural work than the stone. He marked it in his mind. 1 hard push, maybe 2, and 10,000 pounds of masonry would come down on whoever was standing beneath it. He drew the charcoal from his belt pouch, getting shorter. He'd need to ration. 2 entrances, both watched. 1 wall ready to collapse, stones to throw, sightlines from the upper corridor. Lira sat against the back wall, her cloak pulled around her, watching him work, missing nothing.
How long can we hold this?
She asked.
Longer than open ground.
That's not an answer.
It's the best one I have.
She pulled her knees up and rested her chin on them. In the gray light, she looked small and calm. Kael sat down across from her, tired all the way down, did not close his eyes. Kael sat with his sword across his knees and waited.
Come hearken now to a tale of old, of the Ashwood Road where the birches bend, where a sellsword walked in the autumn cold, and a child he swore he would defend. 4 days upon the rutted way, and the mist lay thick where the tall trees meet, and the ravens watched from their boughs of grey, and the dead leaves whispered beneath his feet. The road goes ever on, my kin, through the Ashwood dark, where no light shines. A coin was paid and an oath begun, and the wind doth bear him down the lines. The road goes ever on. At the Way House door a woman smiled, and she asked no name, and he gave her none. And a small voice spake from beneath the child's hood. Is it her you think upon? And he answered not, for his heart was stone. and his love was lost ere the war was done. There were boot prints pressed in the Ashwood clay, 3 sets fresh and the sign of dread, and the silver moon hid her face away, for she knew what waited on the road ahead. The road goes ever on, my kin, through the Ashwood dark, where no light shines. A coin was paid and an oath begun, and the wind doth bear him down the line.